Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to part 2 of an exciting Ewok Adventure comic pitch. I am your tour guide, Benjamin Shipper, and I'm going to walk us through, this is my process for developing a pitch for the license holders of the Ewoks and Star Wars. Whether or not it becomes a printed book or published by that license holder, specifically I'm thinking Dark Horse, isn't really the main issue. The main issue for me with this project is just to have fun and to sharpen my skills before beginning to draw in earnest my next book. But before I talk a little bit about the second part, which is developing the character and drawing and making some sort of designs and art for that project. This is my first graphic novel, Joe Death and the Graven Image, coming out from Dark Horse next year. And it is a cartoon extravaganza of large and small animals and people. And it has to do with kind of life and death balance and some headier stuff, but I think it'll just be a fun adventure. I'm selling this zine. I have a limited amount of copies. This is just a zine about tractors, and my son is in a tractor phase, so I just decided to not waste any time formulating like a giant project, and just wanted to draw some tractors. So that's on my web store, and you can purchase it there. I do send a promotional flyer, small poster, with every order. So if you want to get this poster, order something from my web store. But so the second part of this this pitch development is just trying to flesh out a design, some characters, Ewok specifically, that I like to draw, and also some color studies. So I always suggest, and I always try to start out with some reference. And when I say reference, I don't mean specifically drawing someone else's version of Ewoks or really even looking at Star Wars, honestly. I found it most helpful to kind of look at cartooning books or illustrators that are very cartooned. And this is Gustaf Tenngren storybook, and Gustaf Tenngren was a Disney story artist and concept developer back in the day. And so we'll look at this a little bit, and some other reference like this book, Fantasia, again, Disney classic, but really appealing cartooning, and I think that's really at the heart of what I'm trying to do as a cartoonist. So not necessarily trying to, look at the Star Wars movies and draw some sort of, I'm abstracting. And I think whenever you're adapting into a new form, you do have to abstract and pull things into your field. Also some Frazetta, some Frank Frazetta. I looked at a little bit for some of these images, and so I did 3 color studies and character designs, and we'll look at that. We'll look at maybe the drawings, maybe the physical drawings, and then we'll go inside my computer to see the color studies. All right, let's do it. All right, I've gathered my reference, and I already love what's happening here, and let me explain. I love what happens in the middle of 2 very different things. So, Disney's Fantasia, Disney style, Disney genre, and even age group represented here. Children's books, children's kind of media, and a lot of cartooniness. And then bookended by 2 very different genres or age groups Frank Frazetta did a lot of adult stuff, fantasy and science fiction pinups and covers, and very adult themed stuff. Still very, very beautiful and very popular, very eye-catching in the same way that Disney movies are. And so I think creators, artists, and writers should be really, let's say, promiscuous when they're looking for material, or when they're just creating stuff. They should be as interested in as whatever they're interested in. And I think just when we follow our natural kind of inclinations to like certain things, we tend to have bookshelves and collections that look like this, two opposite or different kind of spectrums as far as usually as far as audience or as far as age group, and then but out of us comes something different, something in between those two things. So that's what I see represented just in the covers here. But we can look at a few. I'm not going to go too much in depth with these books, but hopefully we'll get something out of it just by looking at it. And these are the things that get me excited. If I haven't said this before, I just get excited about creating something when I consume something that excites me. So obvious reference here, Star Wars Illustrated Universe. I have done a video where I've gone through this in more depth, but just wanted to look at Endor and Ewok Village, and the first conception of Ewoks from Ralph McQuarrie. And very almost scientific, almost like James Gurney's Dinotopia, this version. And while nice to see and sort of look at, it doesn't necessarily do anything for me as far as character design. I mean, I think, of course, there's specifics like their ears, their nose, and their mouth and eyes. Basic facial features that have to be there to kind of clue us into, hey, we're looking at Ewoks. But besides that, the landscape and the architecture are all interesting, and I think most helpful from this look. But started with that, and maybe did a few sketches, and then moved on to more cartoony books, cartooning, and early Disney stuff. I just think was so full of beautiful, appealing design, graphic design, with the characters. Mickey is the absolute top dog as far as a character who is just pleasant and appealing to look at. It's all round edges, all very childlike, and just really appealing. And so, of course, there are some characters in Joe Death, specifically Blue the Moth, that I've kind of more and more looked at that about that style. But yeah, I wish this kind of stuff existed more in current graphic novels and comics. So I'm trying to kind of revive that myself. But this is a good example too of a very kind of if you've seen this section in Fantasia, this is about Mickey the mouse, who is an apprentice, not necessarily even an apprentice to the sorcerer. He just cleans the workshop, and to do it better and faster, and to sort of escape his responsibility, he uses the wizard's magic to make the broomsticks come alive. And he has this brilliant fantasy of him controlling everything, pointing out the heavens and declaring, what the sea and the stars should do. And it goes south real fast, and he's in a nightmare and he can't control what he's created. Really wonderful, like Frankensteinian kind of story, I think, about technology and your desire, with a very cartoony, childlike character. So I kind of want, I'm looking for that type of thing, which is like this. It's a little bit like the hobbits in The Lord of the Rings, for example, where it's a smaller, kind of naive young person, or a little bit of a cartoon. You know, it has just younger, naive, and they go in. They are brought in either by other forces or their own desires into a bigger, deeper, larger world. And that's kind of what I'm always trying to replicate in my work, and also in this pitch. You know, I think we know what we know about the Ewoks, but I'm always wanting to link it to the grander narrative of the Force. You know, light against dark, and so I'm going to be sort of mining that aspect from the Star Wars universe. And so, reference for this type of stuff, I'm thinking about more than just image. And I think cartoonists have to think about story, have to think about, theme, and just what it is that makes a story important, or have some substance. So this one was, I just love looking at this all the time, and great example of like early, some of the best of early Disney. Another Disney kind of, I suppose, graduate, though I think he probably was working before Disney, but is a children's book illustrator, Gustaf Tenngren, and he's just developing, adapting older stories. You know, Goldilocks and the Three Bears here. Really beautiful. He just has really beautiful emotion and stylization with his figures and characters, and the set props. Just everything is so nicely organic, but also graphic in his work. I think I've talked about some kids book stuff on this channel before, but here it is again, where he's just so good at that, like the organicness of a cartoon. He's simplifying reality, and so he's this is a great image. Not really exactly what I was just saying, but this is a really interesting image. I don't even know what this story is here. I haven't read this one. Oh, Puss in Boots. And I haven't read the story. I don't know what is exactly happening here, but just this, again, this replication of dark and a hero. So dark and danger, we have literal skulls and bones here, really creepy elements. So I think I want more of this to be in modern cartooning and modern storytelling, which is like an acknowledgement that stuff can get really dark and creepy. Here we have this ogre king and a little cat with boots. It's a wonderful scenario that is, it's very mythological. It's kind of like someone descending into hell here, and like Dante, but a little cat, juxtaposed with this ogre who eats people, and these like acolytes, I suppose, or ghouls. Just frightfully interesting, I think. Here we go, his version of Beauty and the Beast. Just a wonderful juxtaposition of two very different forms, and with an amazing kind of backdrop. He is an illustrator. I just think he gives you the information that you need, and there's not much information there that you don't need. It's like, this is obvious that these two characters are different, opposites, and you just need an atmosphere behind them to make it work. And that's actually, I feel like, what I did in these images that I developed for this project just recently, or just this week. Let's see. There's a few freakishly good ones. This one, especially, I like. This is probably his most detailed that I've seen of his images, his paintings. But he still has wonderful cartooning design. So if you look at this boot, or if you look at the bend in his elbow, you see that this is just, the outline of this boot is straight. There are no curves other than, the shoe part, but it just goes straight like a stovepipe. But within that form, there is the representation of the boot material, the leather kind of crinkling and bunching up there at the heel where it needs to turn. Those type of little details are fantastic. I think that's with the tree as well, where the outlines are pretty clear. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of what am I trying to say? Bumps on the tree. But inside the form, inside the outline of the tree, you get a lot of rich detail within it. So there's this really interesting thing, which I'm always trying to do more and more, which is develop real clear designs and images, but within those forms to make the interior textures and textures to be really interesting and very detailed. I'm not great at like just adding detail because I just want to be done with it and keep it simple. But here it's masterfully done. If you look at her foot, it's really just it's really not, there's no demarcation. It's really just an oval here, right? But her toes are detailed inside that oval. Same with the flesh of her arm. It's like, it's really kind of grotesque. But it's also very, very clear. And inside you get some really interesting muscle work. So, Gustaf Tenngren, everyone. Wonderful, wonderful fellow. Here again, you see some real strong forms, and he's careful not to overlap this character with this character, except only a little bit. So you do see that there's some depth there, but that's really all he needs. And it's a flat perspective. It's iconographic and symbolic. Really beautiful stuff. But there's so much interest inside those very symbolic forms. I just, man, gets me excited. And I think it would be really interesting if more and more cartoonists took these cues instead of trying to draw more realistically, or I don't exactly know what, but I feel like there's this lack of coherence with design language in comic books, and I think it's found in spades here with the Gustaf Tenngren. So that'll be it for this book. I'm not going to go all the way through, but this one's a great one. Buy it if you can find it. These books are getting more rare and rarer, I believe. Frazetta. All right. So I didn't necessarily grow up knowing about Frazetta or reading his work or anything. And specifically, I'm most interested about the emotional quality to his paintings, to his color. That's really what I find most powerful. His characters are muscular and energetic and moving, but well, I don't know about moving. They're there, and I feel like the color is so so impressive that that's really what I'm thinking about. And but also he is like an artist of the primitive, I guess. So a lot of like cavemen and really bare knuckle kind of primitive type of civilization or heroes. And so, you know, monsters and wizards versus man with a sword, and a beautiful woman as an accessory, I suppose. And just, you know, but just charged with so much like energy and interest. Like, you know, what even the heck is happening? There's this giant bear up here, ghostly kind of bear, man on horse, sorceress with a giant cloak. It's kind of surreal, and the colors are such a huge part of that. So this type of like painting is really fun to look at, and to sort of think about. I think about Primal, Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal TV show. I really like that show, and I find a lot of similarities between that show and this. And again, it's that like I'm not necessarily interested in drawing really realistic, muscular men and women, but this type of atmosphere mixed with my sort of cartooned little talking bears called Ewoks, I find really interesting. And you'll see some of the reference, I think, in some of the images that we look at now. But yeah, let's go there now. Actually, I'll show you the drawings. So physical drawings. I've done a little bit more of an exposition of my process, but I use, I'm not going to do it as much here now, but I use essentially tracing paper, though what it is layout bond paper and marker paper. So these are translucent papers, but they're not so flimsy and not so transparent as tracing paper. So I find a lot of great qualities with these papers. And for this, I found kind of my characters, and then I started to build a scene around them. So let's see. So here we go. This would be kind of my first attempt right here, finding the forms of the characters and then describing, where they could be, what could be around them, just trying to figure out how to draw stuff around them while not obscuring them. And just little by little, traced over that, and came up with actually two different layers that I just kept different. So I kept these on separate layers. I didn't draw, this is, when you look at the painting, these are the elements in which I scanned in and put together in Photoshop. And so just have that in mind when we look at the painting in a little bit. That was the first one I did. And then I started to think more and more about the story that I want to tell, and characters and the sort of plot. And I really, have this firm scene in my mind of Warwick, Wicket. Warwick W. Davis, I think, is the actor that plays Wicket, the Ewok that we meet in Return of the Jedi. But I really want to do this story set further in time. So Wicket is an older Ewok, and he hangs out with Force Ghost Leia when she so chooses to show herself again on the forest moon of Endor. And so themes and elements of Star Wars in general are here, are already starting to creep into the images and the story that I want to tell, just kind of naturally. I just think it's really natural for Jedi who die to be seen again, walking and talking with those that they knew in their physical life. And so, to have Wicket, who is such a young Ewok when we met him, now as an older tribesman, and so the story that I'm thinking of writing, or have begun kind of writing, at least the pitch of it, is about his son and the journey that his son will take. All right, and did some more development as far as the background there, and again using just the character and the backgrounds on separate layers, and I just combine them in Photoshop. Oh, and I will show you. Yeah, here's this one. It's more of a Frazetta drawing. Pair a couple with in a sort of a situation of horror, which again we're sort of getting into that space of cartoon people being in real and dangerous situations. So I think just with two characters together, really nothing else. I created some sort of atmosphere in the painting, and I've only done 3 paintings, but it's enough that it's as much as I could do for this project right now. So let's go into my computer, pull up Photoshop, and take a look at these images. All right, here are the final images, color studies, character designs, and there's just 3 of them. This isn't anything major. This is actually kind of only sort of designed for internal use. I don't necessarily think of these as part of a pitch Bible or anything. This is just me having fun, seeing what I can do with color added to my drawings, and getting the atmosphere, little experiments. And that's what these are. There's really not much I can say about them other than show you what they are. So this is the first one I completed, and it was fun just to take those sketches and really unrefined drawings. I know I did several layers, but it was nice to play with those really rough elements in Photoshop and erase what I needed to erase, and then just have a pretty decent looking color sketch, and even final artwork. I like in a lot of ways where certain artists and certain publications are going, which is more unrefined, more loose and sketchy, and so that was enjoyable to execute this one with that kind of feel. And if you'll notice, the main characters are sort of, I'm not necessarily trying to replicate an animation style with celluloid or the sort of painted animation cells, but it just kind of worked out this way to make the characters darker, their line is darker, and also including black. So spotting black on their staves and hoods, and if you'll notice, there is no true black anywhere else. There's none in the background, even some of the foreground. If you look at the stump down there, it really doesn't have any black, and that technique is in comic books. It's called color holding. So, or just sort of flat areas of color. But that is a nice separation technique whenever you're trying to draw something and communicate something clearly. Having that separated value is really helpful. So strong use of that here in this one. But in the second one, I actually completed, we go sort of the opposite, where for the most part, black and dark is all around these characters, and of course there's some creeping in on mallet, sort of heavy metal hammer here that the young Ewok brave has, and in his and her hoods. But yeah, this one was just a fun, um, you know, leaning into sort of the horror genre, or there's no necessarily any concept behind this, which is really liberating for me, because I think I maybe try to have concepts too grounded before just enjoying drawing and painting. So this one was fun to push and pull um, colors and value, and to have some kind of elemental kind of atmosphere coming from that. And finally, we have our dear princess and an older Wicket. And really nice. I really love developing this image. These are probably done in a few hours, and I think that's potentially why I like them so much, or why they're so much more free, because it's kind of just going and seeing where it takes me. And so to have this type of again, I'm doing this with background elements now. So having the element that I want to bring out, the trunk and the characters, especially Wicket, having black inside them, and that's where the true black is, and everything else has a color hold or is just a flat colored shape. All of that sort of marshy kind of grass and the pond below, really nice like element, sort of a atmosphere, I suppose. And subtlety or subtleness is what I really value in artists and writers, and just subtlety of color and variety of shape. So what I mean by subtlety here is these kind of rainbow patterned, kind of rainbow colored stones. They are, as you look closely, they are sort of rainbowy colors. There's purples and pinks and oranges. And if you look at them, you'll notice that. But generally, if you're looking at this picture, you're going to be looking at Leia and Wicket. And only after you sort of move away and move around the image will you notice more subtle hints of variety, and potentially notice how the water is a little greener on this side than it is over here, more purple, and how we fade backward with a gradient into more of a greener space. So that's really always what I'm trying to do with color. But I think this one was successful in a lot of places that I haven't been successful. So having a really colorful kind of naturalistic color here on Wicket, and having him be pretty bright and poppy, actually, along with this sort of pink trunk, with a more grayed out, subtle background. So really like this image, and I think all of them are, they're successful enough to I think be happy with as an artist. And where I go from here, I haven't quite decided. Probably developing more of the pages, and some of the scenes, or one of the scenes that I've developed from the writing perspective. But this has enough like pop to make me excited about doing that. And yeah, so this is this is, I feel like there should be something more other than this that I have to say, but really it's just developing images that are eye-catching, and I think I've succeeded. And I hope that you get something from this and enjoy developing the creative content that you want to develop and that you want to see happen and to see exist. Really, I think more and more people should be loving loving what they love and continuing in that type of practice. So I love traditional animation and 2D cartooning, and so I am in sort of the family tree of that, producing more of it myself. And I think people will respond to that when you do it. So please do what you like, and try to find the most excellent examples of that in order to do it well. Because just doing what you want to do is only sort of the half truth of it. You can do that, but you're not just going to be automatically good at it. So really try to develop your skills of what you love. If you love something, it's usually well made. So try to make make what you make well made as well. So anyway, if I talk any longer, I'm going to be in hot water with myself. And I'm not going to edit this because I don't have enough time. So, but thank you for watching, and hopefully next week I'll have something else, probably going into more of the writing and the story process, and maybe some more images too. But yeah, look forward to that. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.